Hi everyone, this is Mo, and I'm excited to show you the latest regarding Pipes feature, which is currently being released. And I wanted to give you a quick overview of what you could do with it, how it would work, and a little bit of use cases of different functionality that are now easily possible with Pipes. So we'll start with actually showing you use cases, and then afterwards I'll come back and actually show you how pipes are built and created and how to, all the different components that go into it. So for the first use case, we're going to have a use case where we have users in different parts of the world and each user is in a different time zone. What we want to do is make sure that when they come to our app, they see the time based on their time zone. So it should convert whatever time we save to the time that they're actually at. This is a very typical use case that we've gotten a lot of requests for, so we tried to make sure that we include this as part of the pipe feature. So I have a brand new app here with just 3 records in one table, and then I have a users table with 1 record with this email address, and I have 2 new fields here. One's called time zone and one's called zip code. So in the time zone field, I have a time zone that's set to show that this user is in New York and in this zip code. We don't need the zip code for this example, but I just added it here for the later example. And in our sample data table, I have a date and time field, and this is a date time that I'm going to want to convert. So the first step is going to be and also just want to show you one more thing. If you look at our settings of the app time zone is set to Los Angeles. So we're located in Los Angeles, and we're going to assume that this user who's going to be logged in is going to be located in New York. Whatever times are saved as Los Angeles time should be saved as their time. Should be shown, I'm sorry, as their time. So the first thing we'll do is install a new pipe, and we have here a pipe called Tadabase State Utilities. And once you install it, you'll see in the API calls, you'll see all the different things that you can do with this pipe. So what we're going to be doing is going to be converting the time. And let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to create a new page, and we'll call this demo. We'll put it in the default layout. And on this demo page, we're going to add a table with the sample data table. And let's just add all the columns. Let's take a look at it, make sure it all looks great. Preview. And here we are. We have a clean table with a date and time. Now, I'm logged in here, as you can see, as Mo, and I'm located in New York, while the app is actually located in Los Angeles. So what we want to do is actually create a pipe. We're going to create a new data source, add a pipe. We're going to say set. We're going to choose the convert call, which is convert time. And now we just got to choose what we want to convert. So we want to convert we have to choose, we're using the date time from the record's value of date time. And we want to convert it to the destination time zone of the logged in users field time zone. So we're taking the date and time from this column, from this table, and converting it to the time zone that this user is logged in as. Now, as soon as we added this right here, a new option appeared on the left side. If you click on it, you can see now the response. So we can add that as a regular column, just like any other column. If you go ahead and save that and refresh, you will now see that I'm on the wrong page. My apologies. Let me refresh this page. You can now see that this converted this time from Los Angeles time to New York time. Now, if I change the time zone, it will adapt on the fly. So as soon as you refresh, it'll automatically update based on the logged in user's time zone. This is one basic example, and while you're adding these pipes, you can do multiple pipes in one table, and each pipe can have different functionality, different features. Like, for example, another really unique use case is if you have the email address here and you want to also show it masked. So you can go here and add a Tadabase text utility. And if you go back in the page builder, open up this table and add a new pipe, you can say add new pipe, Tadabase text utility, and we want to mask this email address. Now we have to just choose which email address we want to mask. So we want the record value of email, and now we'll have that same column here on the left side where you could choose the masked email. Now I added it here as a column, and what it'll actually do is just mask that email. And we have we're going to be having hopefully hundreds of these types of little functions that you could run against your data. So now this is how you would run this dynamically inside of a pretty much most of our data components. You can run this and create automatic responses. So for the next example, I want to show you how you can do the same thing or something at least very similar directly inside HTML component, and that could be on this page or inside a details page. And I'm going to show you inside a details page. So suppose here we have David Ross. We go inside the details. We have a very basic details about this user. Now we want to, let's say, run a pipe inside of here. We could go into the builder, and I'm inside this details page, and I'm going to add an HTML component right here on the side, add column, and in here I'm going to do HTML, and now I can add a pipe into the HTML. So I'm going to say let's do the Tadabase text utilities, and let's mask the email address. The email address we want to mask is going to be the record value, because we're in a details page, so we can get the record value of this email. Now we have here, you know, David, we don't know that's David, so let's say email address is, and then we're going to add the pipe of the masked email. So let's go ahead, update and save, and it's going to run a pipe on the fly. And you can see, here we go, it has a masked email, so you could kind of show or hide data based on however you wish, and you could use regex or however you want to mask this stuff. We have many utilities that are going to help you with very unique functionality that you're looking for. Of course, you can also show, you know, the user's location based on the user's location, or at least based on the value you have. So if you have their zip code, you can show the current weather or whatever information you want to get from, you know, flight status or whatever you could think of. For the next example, I want to show you how you can also do validation dynamically right inside of a form using validation rules. And this is perhaps one of the most powerful features, because now you can actually validate against other non-related database tables. And there are many different examples for this, one in the community, which I'll link to as well. But let's do the validate against, let's say, a distance. So what I'll do is I'll go back into the pipes and I'll install the distance search. So get the distance, and here we just need to add the API key. So I'm going to add my API key. Okay, I've added my API key. Now we can continue with the next step. So what we'll do is we'll create a new table, and we'll call this, let's say, moving, and we'll have moving from, and then we'll have another text field of moving to. Okay, now what we want to do is make sure that if somebody is moving from a location that's further than whatever we want it to be, then we don't allow them to submit the form. So create a new page here, validation. And in here, we're going to add a form for moving. We're going to customize it, put in moving from and moving to, and then we're going to create validation rules. We'll say validation rules, add validation rule. We'll first trigger a pipe of get distance, and we need to pass two parameters. One is starting address, which is going to be the record value of moving from, which is going to be in the form whatever we populate it with, and then destination address will be the record value of moving to. So now that we pass that information, there's going to be a response of the distance value. This is a number it's going to respond with. So we're going to say we want to validate that if it's higher than, let's say, 1,000. I think the response it's returning is in, I think, meters. We have a way we can actually change that. We could set here the units to metrics or imperial. And this is just a regular pipe that we built in a few minutes just to kind of show functionality. You can, once you install it, you can customize this however you wish. So what we're going to say is that if the starting address and the end address is more than 1,000 meters, say too far. So let's go ahead, update and save, and let's preview this page. So let's say we're saying we're moving from, I think you could, this is Google, so you can pretty much use any value, any data that they'll understand. So let's say we're moving from 90034 to 11230, which is going to be a lot more than 1,000. And it's going to say too far. If we're moving, I think it's hopefully a little bit closer. That's still too far. But the point is, it's only 1,000. If we change this to something a little further, maybe it's feet. I don't even know. I have to check which value they use. and now it'll submit successfully. If we wanted, we can actually do all this before the form ever submits and update a value inside the form. And I'll show you what that means. So suppose that here we have a number field and we'll call this distance. So what we could do is trigger a pipe to run inside the form, and I'll do this to keep us organized. We'll add a new column here and we'll add the distance to the right side. And right here we'll add a trigger pipe. So what we're going to say, I don't know why I went in there, but we're going to say get the distance, and the parameters are going to be the same. They're going to be starting address is the record value of moving from, and the destination address is going to be the record value of moving to. And now we can say when we trigger this pipe, what should we do? We want to set the distance to the duration value. Pretty sure that's what we're trying to do. So if we refresh this, let's put in 9035 11230 trigger pipe, and now it'll put that value right in there. If you wanted, you can also do all this directly inside of a record rule, so it all happens behind the scenes, and that also works very similarly the same way. So let's say we get rid of this, we get rid of the validation rules, let's get rid of the whole thing, and inside record rules we could do something very similar. So we could say update this record and run this pipe, get the distance, and here we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say the starting address is the record value of moving from, and the end address, destination address, is the record value of where you're moving to. And now we can set different values. You could say set the distance to the pipe value of distance value. And now this will all happen behind the scenes. So let's give it a test. We say we move it from 1230 to 90035. We save. And let's look at the database. We should see that value automatically generated right here. You can also trigger all these pipes directly inside of table rules and inside of tasks, as well as inside of page rules. This video is getting a little longer than I expected it to, so maybe I'll break it up. We'll make another video another time. But inside page rules, you can also do something very similar. You can run a condition and trigger a pipe to check certain conditions based on either logged in user or based on whatever values you pass. So an example is you could, if you have a Stripe integration, you can check if the user is past due. If they're past due, then show them an error message or redirect them to whatever page you have in mind and stuff like that. So just to wrap up this video, I wanted to show you a few more things inside the actual pipes. So, we have a library here of pipes that we're going to be adding, and a lot of these are Tadabase pipes. So for example, here's a pipe, Tadabase record utilities. And essentially what this does is it lets you use certain functions in terms of copying, duplicating records or child records or importing connected records and being able to do that on the fly. And you'll notice that this has very few settings. So this is a non-configurable pipe, and all you can really do is just use it. So for example, if we wanted to import child records, we would need to put in our API information here, and then we would put in whatever values here. This gets a little bit beyond the scope of this video, but essentially what you're saying is, find this record in this table and import all the records that are connected to this record. An example would be if you're importing many jobs if you have a job template, and you want to import all those jobs into a new job. So that would be importing child records, or you can duplicate a parent and all the children, or you can duplicate a parent and 2 different children tables and create a whole new record out of it. And I'll try to break this down a little bit better in another video. Now to install your own pipe, you just have to know a little bit. It's perhaps a bit more advanced for a lot of our users, but essentially what you do is you just need the information from whatever API you're going to use, and you need to create API calls, methods, and you put in all that information and use variables and parameters to auto-dynamically create that API. So like for example, if we look at the distance, if we look at our API calls, to get the distance using Google, we pass we pass all this information which Google tells us to pass, and then here we have a dynamic value of origin, and then here we have the dynamic value of destination, and key, units, and mode. So if we look at the parameters, well, it's actually here under global. one's called starting address, and the slug is origin. So as long as this matches the API call, it will work. And then destinations, well, you can name this whatever you want, but as long as this matches whatever you put inside of the curly braces here, it will work. And then you can run a test dynamically right inside of here. And you do test. It gives you the response, and now you can choose what you want to do with the response. And this also gets a little bit tricky because you got to kind of keep track of all the data structures. So as an example, if you look here, the response, we have here routes, legs, distance. And you can see this is, this is connected. This is a child of this, and this is a child of that. So you have to kind of keep track of it. And we're going to create documentation on how to do that better. But you can see the actual output is we have routes.0, legs.0, and then distance. And then you name that here, whatever you want it to be. So this specific value from the response should be called distance text. And now when you're using your app inside the builder, you'll have a response value that you can utilize called whatever you name it here. So this part will be dynamic. Again, this is from a very, very high bird's eye view. Just wanted to kind of give you a little overview of where this API configuration happens, and hopefully we'll have great documentation as we keep working on this and polishing it off.